Okay, so good day everyone. So for today, we're going to have a discussions of enterprise architecture program maturity. EA program maturity is a measure on how well an organization's EA program is aligned with business goals and objectives. It is a framework that assesses the current state of an organization's EA programs and provide a roadmap for improving its maturity level over time. So AA program maturity frameworks typically consist of several stages or levels, each of which represent different degree of alignment between the AA program and the organization's business goal. So the exact stages of levels may vary, no, depending the framework being used. But the common, of course, is the ad hoc, repeatable, define, manage, and optimize. And to give us more details about the topic, let us all welcome our next presenter. Go ahead, sir.
Hello, audible ako?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hello and thank you for all attending. Great to have you here. Today, we'll present Enterprise Architecture Program Maturity by Dr. Gopala Krishna, Vihara, and Prasad Pali. Before we proceed, let me explain to you in a short term the enterprise architecture. And just a quick thing about it, I want to talk about this a bit because it is connected in the enterprise architecture program maturity. The great example of this is it is assembled. Let me say it is configured. Just like a setup or a pattern, maybe a model or the best maybe meaning to it is an essential supporting structure to the company itself or the organization itself. As an enterprise architecture logical framework, it is established the links between business strategy, organization structures, processes, and yes, databases and technologies are also connected, guys. Um, the goal is to add a value through to its support of business goals. Enterprise architecture does enable you to plan for it, showing you how all these moving parts, the connectivity between your business and your technology work together to give you the data for smart decision making today and better planning tomorrow. I'm really happy to answer your questions at the end, guys, and feel free to chat below throughout the course of my presentation. Okay. So firstly, we're going to look at what are the content, the introduction, okay, okay, the introduction, the benefits, um, the um, the benefits and the best practices, yes, and maturity assessment, um, enterprise architecture maturity assessment framework, enterprise architecture maturity model or yung EAMM, enterprise architecture element, enterprise maturity levels, characteristic of maturity levels, assessment methodology, and maturity scorecard. And I will also conclude conclusion later. Next, the introduction. Organizations that can manage change effectively are generally more successful than those that cannot. Many organizations know that they need to improve their IT-related development processes in order to successfully manage change, but don't know how. Such organizations typically either spend very little on process improvement because they are unsure how best to proceed, or spend a lot on a number of parallel and unfocused efforts to little or no avail. To give you my input here, information technology, guys, works best when it is tied tightly to our company's overall business goals. On the other hand, business unit executives have remained doubtful about its ability to support them in creating value. Despite the best intentions of managers of both sides, companies continue to struggle to integrate IT systems and to determine whether it actually improves performance. This problematic tension between the IT department and business units has inflicted on many companies for years. One approach to closing this gap is the discipline called enterprise architecture. So how can an enterprise today possibly keep up with this constant, relentless, never-ending acceleration of change? And the answer is the transformation of transformation. And yes, and we are now focusing the program maturity of enterprise. So most enterprise will not be able to cope, but maybe I can explain to you how in this discussion how enterprise do not only cope but to thrive, to grow, to prosper, and maybe to beat the competition. In today's world, your transformation capability is strategically important and will either provide massive business advantage if done well, or create massive business problems if done badly. Your transformation capability has probably grown organically over time. And while it was mature enough to bring the enterprise to where it is now, it may not be mature enough to take it where it needs to go in the future. The enterprise transformation maturity canvas may the this lesson is a good way to begin to understand if your transformation capability has an appropriate level of maturity. Now, as you might be already knowing, no, yung mga ibang agile practices, no, dun sa within the order or IT departments of organizations, no. Um, Siguro nagsimula lang ito na parang biglaan lang, tapos di naman sinasadya na bigyan ng halaga yung itong enterprise program maturity, no. Nakita nila yung kahalagahan ng ng na may ganitong klase ng framework. So instead they went no after a frequent release no nag ano sila. So these incremental iterative models of development came into existence. So ito na nga nagsisimula ng magkaroon at patuloy siyang nag-evolve up until today's no, which enabled no IT departments or software teams to deliver frequently working software to the business. Now, if the business has to really consume it and start using it and get the value out of it, then the business also need to be embraced maturity. And hence the term enterprise maturity came into existence. And what is the need for enterprise maturity? Most of these new generation companies they have very nimble processes so that they become to do things much faster than traditional organizations. That is the real reason why these large organizations are really trying to improve the maturity of their entire businesses. So the classical agile, yung ganun yung kung paano siya basta kailangan niyo within dun sa software is now becoming a way of doing business for the entire organization. So when we go for an organization transformation of a very large organization into maturity, we need to have a roadmap. So kapag ba sisimula ka ng company tapos titignan mo yung 10 years, 5 years from now, no, kailangan mo ng roadmap kung saan ba to magiging patungo. Of course, syempre marami kang kailangan ng mga systems dito sa company para hindi lang din madamay yung cost or yung investment na hindi basta malaki yung magagastos. It is not as easy as transforming one team or two teams, no, so agile or yung 10 teams na yun, an enterprise-wide rollout of agile, no? It calls for a clean roadmap, so kailangan may malinis talagang roadmap, otherwise the end results can be very confusing. Of course, a practical roadmap for organizations to follow or as a guideline. So yung roadmap na yun yung guideline nila. Guideline na yun, so they can use to tailor or to plan their entire maturity program. Ayan. So yun, enterprise architecture progresses, no, in maturity will benefit the organization in the following ways. So there's a list of them that I'm going to provide an overview and my critical aspects that they encompass. No? It's really great to understand them individually, but we also need to know how they all link together. So I'm going to guide you through enterprise architecture maturity benefit areas. We're gonna look at how we can increase maturity, and we are going to look at what best practice organizations are doing in each of these areas and one of the benefits that they are going to receive. And we are gonna have a little takeaway second. So what I want you to think about throughout this course na is why you go to work and what does your company need you to do, no? And what are you trying to do while you are at work, no? Mga ganong questions. And that make up enterprise program maturity model, all of which contribute unique attributes to the maturity model overall. I'm gonna go through them in a bit more detail. So first, we've got promote strategic initiatives. Strategic planning is an activity that is used to set organizational priorities, focus energy and resources, strengthen operations, ensure that employee and other stakeholders are working towards common goals. So sino ba yung mga stakeholders natin dito, no? Ang stakeholders natin dito, yung mismo mga empleyado at saka yung mga nakapaloob dun sa company, kung sino man yan. Basta related dun. So yun yung mga stakeholders. No? Syempre, isa lang yung goal nila, establish agreements around intended outcomes and results, and assess and adjust the organization's direction in response to a changing environment. So to discipline, they should produce these fundamental decisions and actions which are going to shape and guide what your organization is, who it serves, what it does, and why you do it. So effective strategic planning is going to articulate not only where your organization is going, no, kung saan man di lang yun doon, no, but also the actions that you need to do, make progress. And also, how are you going to know they do a successful? It's going to clarify how individually fits and team projects can be connected to achieve the best outcome for your organization. It's going to include meaningful targets, measure, and sequence of activities that will help focus on key efforts on how you are going to implement the strategy. So some of the key activities that you'll be doing in this area might involve developing strategic priorities and outcomes, creating strategies on how you are going to achieve this. That's going to include business planning cycles. So to define your departmental objectives and their key objectives. So second, we've got reduced software and data redundancy. So data redundancy means repetition, right? And in database terms, redundancy refers to the fact that again and again with same data is repeated in a table or database which occupies more space, in which we don't want that to happen. So nagbigay lang ako ng example kasi related yung database sa software and data redundancy. So third, is enhanced enterprise information sharing. When knowledge is freely shared, employees can be more productive and work at the best of their ability, of course. And when it's hard to find information or know how to ask to get the information, valuable time is lost that could be spent doing more productive things. Knowledge sharing allows employees to easily share their experiences and knowledge with colleagues from across the organization. And likewise, people can tap into valuable information from elsewhere in the company. The benefits of knowledge sharing, of course, magbigay lang din ako ng naka-include dun dito sa enhanced enterprise information sharing, no? Of course, Marami to, pero bigay lang siguro ko ng mga 5 ganun or more. Of course, better decision making, improve problem solving, higher levels of productivity, improve team performance, improve company results, increase innovation. So ito yung nagiging benefits niya kapag in-enhance natin yung enterprise information sharing. So fourth is reduce information system complexity. Complexity reduction helps to simplify your strategy, organization, product, processes, and information technology. Reducing complexity aims at removing unnecessarily complex. So nire-remove niya yung mga necessary complex na process which hinder the change. So kung wala naman yun, ba? Speed growth or increase cost, no? So fifth is better alignment of business strategy and system development. Of course, it needs to be well researched, conservative, and true, no? Achieving business IT alignment can help improve your business performance. So bigay lang din ako ng pwedeng mag-include dito. So it can also boost efficiency and profitability, of course. Improve collaboration, enhance customer experience, improve supply chains, achieve greater return on technology investments, reduce the risk associated with business and technical change. So yun yung mga example, mga benefits, no, with better alignment of business strategy and system development. So 6, greater reliability at implementation and updates. In business, reliability and timing are the core of every successful functioning relationship and the basis of trust. Diba? Ito yung benefits no, sa greater reliability, implementation, and updates. 7, reduce dependency on key resources. Through this resource dependence, the organization with resources is given influence and power over the organization without the resource. With this influence over others, organizations can do things such as influence prices and encourage particular organizational structures. Let's proceed dun sa 8. 8 is improve accuracy in scheduling software development implementation. No? With the above in mind, no, you definitely should be concerned about producing as accurate a schedule as possible. From the data set that you have, the schedule plays an important role in evaluating design and construction methods, project delivery methods, costing, and even the very project award in some project delivery instances. Furthermore, during the prosecution of work on project, the accuracy of schedule updates are crucial in determining delays, impacts, allocation of responsibility, and even provide the basis for damage qualification. In most claims, the project schedule baseline and updates collectively is evaluated for its accuracy of being representative of the work plan in progress. So 9th, we have more accurate forecasting of development future cost. So we've identified, we've identified our actions. What we can start doing now is looking at operating cost, capital cost, and establish financial plan. That's also going to enable us to start looking at budget for future years. So where are we going to need additional funding? Those types of questions can be asked. So a well-constructed operating budget will demonstrate the organization's commitment to fulfilling its mission. It's going to be based on reliable income projections and expense projections. So when we say in income projections and expense projections, it's more on the income or expense statement in the future. This will help the future support cost on getting the accurate program maturity development. Of course, tulad din ng sabi ko kanina, needs to be well researched and conservative and true. Some key activities we're going to be doing is creating the budget to the budgeting process. we're going to be doing cash flow forecasting and financial metric development. So non-financial the performance measure as well. So 10th, more efficient deployment and technology solutions. Of course, we improve productivity and efficiency. With the use of technology in workplace, organizations have been able to increase their productivity and efficiency at a rapid pace. Processes that were once manual and time consuming can can now be achieved in a quick and efficient manner with digital tools, applications, and systems. 11, greater ability to set realistic goals. Setting a realistic goal is an essential part of getting ahead in life. It helps you focus your efforts on what is actually achievable and gives you a roadmap for success that can be adjusted as circumstances change. So in enterprise, when you know why realistic goals are important, you can strongly align your actions and behaviors for long-term success. It also gives us insight into which goals will give us the most benefit in terms of effort and reward. Whether business goals are set to company direction or provide motivation, they should be specific, measurable, achievable, and timely, of course. Then lastly, for 12, increased traceability. Traceability is vital for quick, efficient, and less costly product recalls. Having the proper solution in place can ensure effective and unsafe products are quickly located and removed to protect the safety of the end user and also helps prevent avoidable product recalls. So iniwasan natin yan. So dapat meron tayo niyan. So yun yung benefits nun. So maturity assessment. The main drivers of the enterprise architecture of organizations are declarations of business mission, vision, goals, strategy, no? Purpose, mission, and vision statement explain why a company exists. So sa company, laging merong mission and vision statement, no? Kung ba't siya nag-exist, no? How it plans to achieve its goals and what the business will ultimately achieve. So dapat inaalam din natin yung pagmasok tayo sa company. A purpose statement is an explanation of company's motivation and reasons for being and why it works the way it does. No? A mission statement is a definition of the company's business, who it serves, what it does, its objective, and its approach to reaching those objectives. Then yung a vision statement is a description of the desired future state of the company. An effective vision inspires the team. So mahalaga yung vision statement, no? Na-inspire or na-motivate niya yung team, showing them how successful we look and feel. Then we have technology and organizational silos prevent the implementation of rapid changes. So alam naman natin yung silos, no, sa company, no. Within silos, no, teams often have common goals and aligned incentives that create trust, natural collaborations, and open communication. And because communication is really strong inside silos, you produce better work. So, pwede ako magbigay ng example dito kung ano yung silos na to. So, ito, highlighter. Sample natin siya. Sa isang organization, no, meron tayong parang ano dyan, ito department, ganun. So, hindi siya, ano siya, parang structured wise siya, hindi yung halo-halo nandiyan. So, kunwari dito lahat sa team mo, no, nung nagkakaroon kayo ng collaborative dito, no? Ito yung sa team ng kunwari, ito sa IT, ito sa HR, ito sa finance, for example, sa mga ganun. So, ayun. Base natin to. Processes are not working processes are not working optimally, causing customer dissatisfaction and churn. So these are also part of the maturity assessment. All companies came up with this scenario. Customer dissatisfaction, losing revenue. So here, no matter what, processes should always function at their peak efficiency to avoid this. Efficiency has a direct impact on the productivity of employees who use these processes. Then we have business processes problems or desired process improvements. Of course, this is important, as if this doesn't work well, it can cause numerous problems. No? For example, no, customer complain about poor product quality or bad service. Colleagues get frustrated. Work is duplicated or not done. Cost increase. Resources are wasted. Bottlenecks develop, causing deadlines to be missed. So yun yung then not possible to monitor end-to-end process and measures the results. Monitoring is not an end in itself. Monitoring allows programs to determine what is and is not working well, so that adjustment can be made along the way. It allows programs to assess what is actually happening versus what was planned. Monitoring and evaluation is an essential component of any adaptation planning, and should not be neglected. Trigger indicators and performance indicators can be monitored, and the results used to determine when action should be implemented and to track the success of the adaptation plan. Then we have difficulty of aligning business needs with IT capabilities. Executives, management consultants, and researchers have long stressed the need for IT and the other business functions to align their priorities and strategies. No? Yung business architecture forms, no, the important part in the context of enterprise architecture, no, it helps IT to support the business better, no, cheaper, and of course faster. As part of the enterprise architecture assessment and enterprise architecture definition, we need to understand, define business goals, business strategies, or initiating business processes or engineering. Also, development of the enterprise architecture is an ongoing process and cannot be delivered overnight. No, hindi yun lang nakukuha sa ganun lang kasimple. No? The establishment an enterprise architecture is critical because it provides the rules and definition necessary for the integration of information and services at the operation level across enterprise boundaries. An organization must work patiently to nurture and improve upon its enterprise architecture program until architectural processes and standards become second nature, and the architecture framework and the architecture blueprint becomes self-renewing. Then we have enterprise maturity assessment framework. An enterprise maturity assessment framework comprises a maturity model with different maturity levels and a set of elements which are to be assessed. Methodology in a toolkit for assessment, questionnaire tools, or etc. The final outcome is a detailed assessment report which describes the maturity of the enterprise as a whole, as well as the maturity against each of the architectural elements. The key components of this framework are depicted below. Ito siya. So here in the figure 1, enterprise architecture maturity assessment framework surrounded by assessment methodology, assessment toolkit, and maturity model. Next. Enterprise architecture maturity model, or yung EAMM, is used to conduct the maturity assessment. EAMM provides the framework that represents the key component of productive enterprise architecture. The goal is to enhance the overall success of enterprise architecture by identifying weak areas and providing a defined evolutionary path to improving the overall architecture process. So you can see the figure 2 enterprise architecture maturity model must comprise or combine with this following. No? First, yung architecture elements, enterprise maturity models, maturity scorecards. No? So, ito yan. Next. Enterprise architecture element. Based on industry standards, no, on our consulting experience, the following architecture elements are identified and are to be assessed as part of enterprise architecture maturity assessment methodology. So you can see the figure 3 enterprise architecture element must be with this process. So organization structure, planning, architecture process, standards, metrics, alignment, governance, compliance, communication, and involvement. So yun. So ito siya. And these are the list of enterprise architecture elements. So ito yung mga binanggit ko kanina, no. So ito siya. So explain natin siya isa-isa. Ito. So we've got organization structure. So this element covers the organization structure that exists for the enterprise architecture program, roles and responsibilities of team members and their skill sets with respect to enterprise architecture. Second, planning. Planning ensures the program is managed to ensure the goals for implementation are realistic and achievable, and the program is kept within scope. It also indicates whether a clear vision exists for a business architecture development within the enterprise architecture process. This element indicates whether there is any process in place for architecture development and how effectively is it followed. Alignment. This element indicates whether activities of the IT architecture teams are aligned with the organization's business goals and objectives. It indicates whether IT senior management is actively involved with business teams in the decision-making process. Governance, governance is the practice and orientation by which enterprise architecture and other architecture are managed and controlled at an enterprise-wide level. Compliance, architecture compliance, our review is the security of the compliance of a specific project against established architecture criteria and business objectives. And then we have standards. It covers the processes, guidelines, templates, and forms used by those involved in the process of architecture. Then we have involvement. Involvement must be part of an enterprise architecture program without the support of managers and employees who are expected to utilize and follow the defined process. The program is sure to fail. Involvement address the ability of the various entities, internal or external to the organization, to coordinate their efforts to the greatest benefit of the organization. Then we have metrics. This element indicates enterprise architecture maturity in terms of measurement and monitoring of enterprise architecture activities and efforts. It indicates if the results of enterprise architecture activities are being captured and measured, and the benefits of the enterprise architecture program have been quantified. Then lastly, we have architecture communication. Communication is the element that ensures standard and processes are established and readily available to team members for reference and use. As an organization changes and program evolve, the continued communication ensures the enterprise architecture program remains vital and operates optimally. Then next slide is we have enterprise maturity levels. The enterprise architecture maturity model depicted below and the following sections reflected the phase an organization will see as their architecture program matures. The model follow the path of an organization as their enterprise architecture program matures and sets benchmarks to measure the performance and the path that is a natural progression in development of enterprise architecture. So in the following sections of each of the levels, enterprise architecture maturity level is defined, and each level contains statements that are indicates of an enterprise architecture program at that level. So here, in the picture below is characteristics of maturity levels. No, we have 5 levels, but we also considered 6, no? Kasi minsan may 0 dito. So, the next slide. Discuss ko siya isa-isa. So, wala pa pala. Wait lang. Ito. Sayin mo natin to. Level 1, processes are unpredictable, poorly controlled, and reactive sa initial. Level 1, no, business in this stage no have an unpredictable environment that leads to increased risk and inefficiency. So we have level 2 as managed. No, processes are characterized for projects and is often reactive. No, so this approach is completely dependent on the event and can only begin once an issue occurs. So ganun siya. Level 3, we have defined processes characterized for organization and is proactive. Projects tailor their processes from organization standards. No, so the organization is more proactive and reactive. No, and there are organization-wide standards and that provide guidance. Then we have 4, quantitatively managed. No, processes measured and controlled. So this organization is using quantitative data to implement predictable processes that meet organizational goals. Then we have level 5, optimizing, focus on process improvement. The organizational focus is on continued improvement and responding to changes. So ito yung in more detail. So here it is in a bit more detail and about characteristic of maturity models. So you can see in the figure 4, enterprise maturity levels. We have these maturity parameters. So at the bottom of this image, you shows no evidence. Shows no evidence. Shows no evidence presented. No enterprise architecture. No IT standards and redundancy. So this is an incomplete. This is an incomplete stage. At this stage work may or may not get completed. Goals have not been established at this point and processes are only partly formed or do not meet the organizational needs. So we have initial. At first level shows localized. Shows localized. Enterprise architecture are ad hoc and localized, little or no or adherence to existing standards. Little communications exist about enterprise architecture. So this is an initial stage. Processes are viewed as unpredictable and reactive. At this stage, no work gets completed, but it's often delayed and over budget. So this is the worst stage a business can find itself, an unpredictable environment that increase risk and inefficiency. Then we have at the second level na shows in progress. This is an under development stage. Enterprise architecture process are under development. Enterprise architecture enterprise architecture process are under development. Responsibilities are assigned and work is underway. No formal guidance. So here, there's a level of project management achieved. Projects are planned, performed, and measured and controlled. So at this level, as you can see in the picture, there are still a lot of issues to address. So ito. Then we have defined at third level, shows governance and involvement. So senior management supports enterprise architecture, defined enterprise architecture, and architecture process reference models are in place. So here in defined stage, organizations are more proactive and reactive. There's a set of organization-wide standards to provide guidance across projects, programs, and portfolios. Businesses understand their shortcomings, how to how to address them, and what the goal is, for improvement. So yan. Then we have manage at fourth stage, shows manage and measured. So we can also call this quantitatively managed na. Enterprise architecture process is part of the culture. Enterprise architecture documents are updated regularly and frequently reviewed. Senior management directly involves in enterprise architecture review process. So quantitatively stage or yung manage and measured stage is more measured and controlled. The organization is working off quantitative data to determine predictable process that align with stakeholder needs. So yan. The business is ahead of risk and with more data-driven insight into process efficiency. So makikita na sa feature na hinhanap nila yung mga ganong scenarios. So we have optimizing at fifth stage. Lastly, shows continuous improvement. Standards and waivers process is used to improve enterprise architecture development process improvements. Explicit governance of all IT investments. Architecture process metrics are used to optimize and drive business decisions. Business involved in the continuous process improvements of IT architecture. No, optimizing stage here, an organization process are stable and flexible. So stable na siya dito, tuloy-tuloy na. Sa last stage na ito eh. At this final stage, an organization will be in constant state of improving and responding to changes or other opportunities. The organization is stable, which allows for more agility and innovation in a predictable environment. So makita sa picture na tuloy-tuloy na siya. Na-achieve niya na. Okay? So we have characteristic of maturity levels. Definition written by this author. As what I have discussed a while ago, it will have some similarities on the definition I gave versus the definition written by this author. No? Of course, level 0, enterprise architecture. No? So, sinama ko lang din to. Gusto ko lang din i-share. So, there is not a documented architectural framework in place at this level of maturity, while solutions are developed and implemented. This is done with no recognized standards or best practices. Then we have level 1 as initial. The base architecture framework and standards have been defined and are typically performed informally. Organizations with an enterprise architecture framework at this level are still dependent on the knowledge of individual contributors. Then level 2, under development, yung level 2, iba lang yung mga iba lang yung mga definition niya. Pero yung level nun, iisa lang. Okay. Parang mas additional lang dun sa input na binigay. The vision, principles, based architecture, and standards have been identified and are being tracked and verified. At this point in the maturity program, processes are repeatable and reusable. Templates are starting to be developed. Then level 3, we have defined. The enterprise architecture framework is well defined using approved standard and or customized versions of the templates. Processes are documented across the organization. Performance metrics are being tracked and monitored in relationship to other general practices and process areas. Then we have level 4, as managed. At this point, performance metrics are collected, analyzed, and acted upon. The metrics are used to predict performance and provide better understanding of the processes and capabilities. The processes, then we have level 5 as optimizing. The processes are mature. Targets have been set for effectiveness and efficiency based on business and technical goals. There are ongoing refinements and improving based on the understanding of the impact changes have to these processes. Then we have assessment methodology. The enterprise architecture maturity model depicted below and the following sections reflected the phases an organization will see as their architecture program matures. The model follows the path of an organization as their enterprise architecture program matures and sets benchmarks to measure the performance and path that is a natural progression and development enterprise architecture. So you can see figure 5 assessment methodology. You know, we have finalized framework. Define assessment parameters sa finalized framework, and use standard enterprise architecture maturity levels. Then second, prepare questionnaire, prepare surveys for application owner, director, CIO operation. Then third, we have a collect and evaluate responses. Collect responses from stakeholders, feed responses into assessment tool, analyze and evaluate results. Then fourth, we have maturity assessment against each parameter, impact assessments against each parameter, suggestions for improvements. Then fifth, we have present assessment report, maturity score and level for each parameter, enterprise maturity level, then next steps. Then we have maturity scorecard. The maturity scorecard describes the maturity scores with respect to each of the architecture elements and their maturity level on basis of the maturity assessment exercise, which was conducted across the organization. The following diagram depicts a sample maturity card below. The maturity scorecard describes the maturity scores with respect to each of the architecture elements and their maturity levels on basis of the maturity assessment exercise, which was conducted across the organization. The following diagram depicts the sample maturity scorecard. So you can see in figure 6, maturity scorecard conclusion must be with this assessment. So a maturity level or maturity score indicates the degree of maturity of the respondent in a specific area. Then finally, now we have conclusion. Maturity within architecture framework will vary across the business architecture, business processes, technology architecture, as well as the architecture blueprint. This is an ever-evolving process of enterprise that leads to an efficient, effective, responsive development and support organization. Then resources. Here's the resources that we can look up to understand better about the enterprise architecture program maturity. List of resources reference for the data I gathered and the authors. And this brings an end to my presentation. I really appreciate your time and I hope you all have a great day. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much, sir, no, for your well comprehensive discussions. No? Again, the program for enterprise architectures, no, the level of alignment between our organization's EA programs and its business goal and objectives is measure, no, of maturity It is a framework that evaluates the current status of an organization, EA programs, and provides a roadmap for maturing it over time. So frameworks for EA program maturity typically consists of multiple stages of levels, no, and each representing a varying degree of alignment between the AA program and the organization's business objective. Depending on the use framework and precise stages or levels may vary. But a common example, of course, is as I mentioned at the ad hoc, no. During the ad hoc phase, no, the AA program is in its infancy with little formal structure or governance in place. EA activities may be ad hoc and profiled by specific projects or initiatives and collaborations and coordination among EA stakeholders may be limited. In the repeatable phase, no, the EA program establishes formal processes and governance structure to direct EA activities. And there is a greater emphasis on aligning EA activities with the organization's business objectives, and EA stakeholders begin to work more closely together. In the defined stage, no, the EA program has well-established processes and governance structure, and its activities are tightly aligned with the organization's business objective. And the duties and responsibilities of EA stakeholders are well defined, and there is a greater emphasis on measuring and reporting EA performance. In the managed space, no, the AA program has well-established metrics for measuring and reporting EA performance and a focus on continuous improvement. There is a culture of innovation, no, and collaboration among EA stakeholders who are actively engaged in the program's enhancement. In the optimized stage, the AA program is thoroughly integrated into the organization's overall business strategy with a strong emphasis on driving innovations and delivering value. And there is a culture of excellence in continuous learning as well as continuous monitoring and improvement of the AA program. So, using AA program maturity frameworks, organizations can establish a roadmap of enhancing their EA capabilities over time by assessing the current state of their EA program and identifying areas of improvement. This can assist organizations in aligning their EA program with their business objectives, enhancing collaborations and coordinations among EA stakeholders, and delivering greater value to the organization. So I think that's it for this topic. And thank you very much to Sir Tin for his presentation.